There's so much improv that you have to just do on site and just sort of, it's just letting go and just being able to work around that, which I think is just such an incredible experience that you can never get in studio, because your studio professor isn't going to be like, well, now there's a giant pipe in your plan halfway through semester.
Right.
Like, so.
Curveball.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was kind of exciting in a way of just sort of discovering all these things. And I mean, I couldn't even imagine doing it in a bigger, more urban setting.
This looks like it's really simple, but there's 5 feet underneath it of things that we had to do and manipulate and change in order for this to perform the way that we wanted to perform.
Yeah.
So just like the sheer sort of checking yourself and like understanding the scale and all of the different intricate pieces that go into making a site work, that was a big learning curve for me.
I think what changed too is that we all gained a better understanding as things were being built and as we were talking through things of the intent of the design. So we were able to make those judgment calls because we were familiar enough with what we wanted it to do that we could evaluate if we made whatever change, could it still do that? Yes, okay, then do it. No, then don't. I mean, we all had a hand in designing this and in documenting it, but I don't think any of us on day one of construction were super aware of every single thing we were trying to do.
Really, the crunch of this entire site was getting everything ready for the pour day. It was really just like that 2-3 week period of how do we make sure that this goes well. I think it was really interesting to me to see how much time, how much money, and how many times I went to Lowe's to get the materials, to get all this sort of stuff, to get that formwork done, and it's nowhere to be seen, right? We draw these lines, we draw these forms, we draw all this sort of stuff, and then we actually have to say, oh crap, how do we build this? And that was like a major chunk of time, a major chunk of money was actually building the formwork to then do the concrete.
Right.
And then, like you said, 3 days later, it's gone.
Right, and it's half of it's, I mean, if you look at the detail, like a majority of the concrete is underground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're seeing 3 inches of it, maybe?
Yeah.
3 to 5 inches of it, and the rest of it is buried. Once everything was set in, once the concrete was poured, it was smooth sailing for the rest of the semester, honestly.
anything, the way I look at doing drawings like this now is if I can build this, it can get built. Because I feel like I was kind of at the bare minimum of understanding of how things get put together. So I feel like now, if I can design and put this together, I think my designs are like assemblable by trained professionals.
You know, we made these documents for us to use, but like you said, we're not always going to be making construction documents for ourselves.
Right.
And so I think, especially when it comes to the concrete, that was a really kind of light bulb moment of like, how do I make sure that my drawings are understandable and that people can take these and actually get what I'm intending to do and actually build it and all that sort of stuff. You know, I think hopefully it'll make me a better communicator in that way, and it'll make me a better communicator in how I do my drawings, how I explain the designs.
Yeah, I think some of my favorite things, like individual days, were where we were able to take like one of these drawings, like zoom in on a piece, print it out at 1:1, and literally go lay it down like on top of something that already been built, and realize that like you're working on a 27-inch screen, but like this is real life. I think that's such a hard concept to grasp. I feel like even after this studio, you kind of have to remind yourself, like, if I went into the computer and said like plot this at 1:1 and go lay it out there, like it has to match up. It will match up, but like these things that you're drawing, looking at it like this big, are going to turn into something that big. This studio, more than any other, taught me not to draw things I don't mean. If it's not gonna add to the function and it's not gonna serve a purpose, don't draw it. I think that sometimes, like in studios where your final project is a rendering and a presentation, you're tempted to just at a visual level add some things because visually it looks better. We had some crazy curves drawn and inverses of those curves, and it was like, get rid of that. Like, you can accomplish the same thing, it will look good with less. So I think for me that was the biggest thing, is that A, sometimes you don't need it, and B, most of the time you don't have time for extra. You really need to like identify a problem and solve it. And make sure that every move that you're making is contributing to solving that problem.
But on that same front too, a lot of times you can't get to that simplified version until you actually work through all of it.
Yes. Yeah.
And so there's something to be said, I think, from that iterative process. And I think that's going to be something that translates into the professional world too.
Yeah. From a bird's eye view and from that sidewalk, it looks more complex than it really is. In terms of building, it came down to 3 detail sheets. I mean, all these other things helped us cite locations, but in terms of physically putting it together, it's 3 pieces of paper. I think that's really cool that we learned how to do that.